Hi, everyone. Claire Wasserman here. I'm the founder of Ladies Get Paid. We're going to talk about how to get the money that you deserve. So let's start that screen share. Okay. By the way, thanks for being here. Thanks for joining the Equal Pay Day Summit. Quick overview for today. We've got 30 minutes, lots to cover. The first question is always, what do I charge? Right? This is understanding your market value, which is easier said than done. So we're going to talk about a couple of different ways that you can go about figuring out how much to charge. That also includes, how do you have these conversations, right? These conversations that can feel kind of awkward, but I'm going to have you feel better about it. Then you've got to know how to talk about yourself, right? So the case that you're making is, I am a top performer, therefore I should be compensated top dollar. The most compelling case that you can make about the work that you've done is how you've impacted the bottom line. Okay, again, easier said than done. So I'm going to walk you through a whole structure in which you can present the most compelling case about you and your work. Then scripts. What do you actually say? So we're going to go over a couple of scenarios. The first scenario being if you're negotiating for a new job, and the next scenario being you're negotiating for a raise. And again, what do you say? Because that's why I know that you're all here, especially if they say no. What's the comeback? What's the comeback ask? I'm going to give you all those scripts in just a minute. First of all, let's remember this is so much bigger than just you. It's so much bigger than your paycheck. This is why we're here today at the summit. This is why I started Ladies Get Paid. Let's think about the wage gap for a second. Black women, 62 cents to the dollar they're making. Hispanic women are making as little as 55 cents to the dollar. The pandemic, and I'm sorry that I'm being depressing right now, but this has got to show you there's urgency to asking for this stuff. The majority of the jobs that have been lost during the pandemic, guess who were they held by? Women and women of color. Burden of childcare, of homeschooling our kids, that's largely fallen on women. That means we've taken a step back from work often, or we've been sidelined. If you want to learn more about these kinds of terrible statistics, you could go to nationalpartnership.org. Keep this in the back of your mind, because sometimes it feels easier to advocate on behalf of somebody else than it does for ourselves. So if you can't do it for you, then do it for the rest of us. Let's also keep this in mind. Asking for money is not asking for a favor. This is not charity. This is not feeling so grateful. They should feel lucky to have you, right? You bring a lot of value. And when you ask for money, what you're essentially asking for is an investment in you. And your company, they're thinking they're going to get a return on their investment. So if it's easier for you to think about this, you're the LLC of you, LLC of me, and you're asking for an investment, not for a favor. Let's talk about understanding your market value. First, it has to be put in context. So this is not a random salary. This is based on a couple of things: the size of the company that you're negotiating with, the location. It depends on you. Do you have certain extra skills, right? Maybe you got a certificate in something. Maybe you have a master's degree. Also, keep in mind, you're not just looking for one perfect salary that doesn't exist. What essentially you're trying to find is your place in what's called the pay band. This is what HR calculates. It's a range. And so again, your case is about how you as a top performer should get top dollar, right? Top of the range. Context. You're going to start online. Indeed. Indeed's our partner. They're great. Definitely a place to begin, but I don't want you to stay there. The more confident you'll be means the more sources you can find. This is not emotional. This is not a random number. You also might want to be able to talk about your sources. So finding a diversity of folks who can give you input. Any kind of professional network. If you're not part of Ladies Get Paid, join. It's free. We've got a big Slack group. If you went to college, right, alumni group, go to the organizer, go to the person who leads that group and say to them, listen, we're all trying to figure out how much to charge. Is there any way that you can facilitate that kind of conversation or really facilitate education? Go to people who you know who are very well networked themselves. Chances are they know somebody who could help you. Go to LinkedIn. This is going to be controversial for a second, but hear me out. It's going to be quite helpful. Go to LinkedIn and find competitor companies, companies where you're not applying to, okay? You're not applying to, but companies that are maybe comparable to the company that you're applying to. Again, size, industry. Go find somebody who has your role, okay? Reach out to them and you say that I sent them I sent you, okay? Ladies Get Paid sent you. Tell them that you're concerned that if we don't talk about our salaries, we might all be undervaluing ourselves. And guess what that does? It gives the power to the employer. We don't want this to be a race to the bottom, which means we need to be transparent with each other. Bring them research. Say to this person, I admire your career. I think you can help me. I'd love to help you. If you're not comfortable telling me how much you make or how you negotiated, here's research I did. Am I off base? Or what is the range that you make? So it's not a question of should you ask or shouldn't you ask. It's a question of how are you going to ask? Make sure that you're asking white men, my friends, okay? Because if we only talk to other women, we might all be underpaid. And I already went everything over on the slide. Wow, good. We're just trucking right through it. I challenge you, find 6 sources, maybe even 6 real people. Keep adding sources. You are going to feel so much better when you walk in there with that market research. You have to pick 3 numbers. Remember, I said it's not one golden magic number. It's actually 3. This is so crucial because if you don't pick these 3 numbers, I guarantee you, you're going to be leaving money on the table. It's pretty straightforward though. You got your pay band. Remember that range? Top of it. You got your fuck you money. I cursed. Sorry, mom. Okay. The top of the pay band. If this number does not make you feel uncomfortable at all, it's not high enough. It's not high enough. I want you to feel like, wow, can I ask this? If it's in the market research that you did, yes, you can. You're going to say it enough times out loud. You're going to say it to other people. You're going to say it to the mirror until you actually believe it. Then we're going to take the middle of the pay band. I call this the feeling good money. This is the money that you're probably going to end up getting. So you have to make sure that you feel like this is the right number for you. Last number, I respect myself too much. This is the lowest you'll go, right? This is the bottom line. Anything else, you're walking away. When you go in to negotiate, forget about the bottom line. Doesn't exist. Really only orient yourself towards the FU money, because that's what you're going to start with. Then they're going to counter you most likely. They're going to say, we can't do that. Okay. How about the feeling good money? There's not that many ways that a negotiation can go. So those are the 2 numbers that we're really going to focus on, but you do have to know your bottom line. Now, here's how you figure out your bottom line. It's a little bit more complicated than just this one slide here, but at the end of the day, you have to evaluate, is this opportunity worth taking for the financial sacrifice that I will have to make? Like so many things in life, this is a cost benefit analysis. So this is sometimes thinking beyond the paycheck, right? Other things that the company gives you that bring you value, right? Money isn't everything, which, ladies get paid. I shouldn't say that, but it's true. If it's going to be a short commute, save time. Time is good. Time is money. How about a really fancy name, right? This company is going to look really good on your resume, or you are changing industries. Maybe like this is going to help you learn new skills, right? Only you can figure this out for yourself, but you have to compare your budget, what you need to live, what you need to thrive, and is this opportunity actually worth making that financial sacrifice? Now, like I said, you can get other things besides money. So yes, you can and you should negotiate for what's called full compensation. Use that word when you go in there. I'd like to discuss my full compensation package, flexibility, higher commission, start date, moving costs, stock options, travel, timetable for review, career development. Now, listen, you're probably thinking, Claire, if they can't give me the salary that I want, then how can they give me career development? Or how can they give me a signing bonus? Well, my friends, different budgets. Even thinking about this past year, pandemic, right? A lot of companies having a lot of problems. Every company has a travel budget, right? They used to send people all over the world. They didn't use that travel budget this past year. So they have a reserve of money that they, yes, can pull, right? So maybe your salary can't go up, but you could get that signing bonus. Now, already have in your mind, what are you going to ask for? See if you can position it as a benefit to them in some way, right? I'd like to go to this conference. Here are skills I'm going to learn that I'm going to bring back. Happy to walk the team through it, right? So it's not just give me, but it's here's how this ask makes sense. Now, the person who is the most compelling, who makes the most compelling case, has been able to effectively demonstrate they've kicked butt. They've kicked butt this last year. Only way that you're going to know the work that you've done and how fantastic you are, and I know that you're fantastic, you have to start tracking it. Okay. So starting now, if you haven't done it, write down anytime you do something that has any kind of impact, anything that's kind of hard, right? And I want to focus on this for a second because those of us who are perfectionists, who are just really tough on ourselves, when I ask women, particularly when I ask women, I say, what's a win that you've had this year? What's an accomplishment? And so often this woman responds to me and she says, but Claire, that was part of my job. I was just doing my job. I want to put that aside. I want you to think about things that were challenging, challenges that you faced, things like I was asked to do something and given no budget, no resources or support, okay? Anytime that you went above and beyond, anytime you took initiative, has to be filtered through something, okay? You have to actually be proud of it and you have to be excited about it. Otherwise, you're going to be rewarded for doing something that you didn't really like, that you're probably now going to have to do more of. For example, maybe you created a system for your team to be more efficient and it was fantastic, but you hated doing it. Don't bring that up, because what you're effectively doing is saying, I want to be rewarded for this and I want to do more of it. So really think strategically about how you want to position yourself for your next steps and find work that you've done that supports that. Come with ideas for the future, right? This is what's called job crafting. Maybe you see an opportunity, a need that the business has. You be the one to fill it. I also want you to bring with you what is called a brag book. Somebody recently told me that she calls hers a smile file. What it is basically screenshots of great feedback that you've gotten, or anything that you can use basically as a testimonial, right? So it's not just take my word for it, but client Bob, he also thought I did a really great job. But it's not just saying, here's the work that I did, right? It's not just assuming that, your work will speak for itself. You have to speak for your work. And that's telling a compelling story. I keep using that word compelling, but that's how you're going to get this money. Now, if you're worried, I'm bragging. No, you're demonstrating that you've impacted the business. You've brought a service to the business. Your manager, the person you're interviewing with, they're going to feel so good. They're going to feel so good knowing that you're a fantastic person. Okay. So let's forget about any of the bragging stuff. Here's a structure I would love you to follow when you're telling your story. It's called the STAR method. It's an acronym. We got the STAR. Set the scene. So in your mind right now, think about what's the win that I'm going to be talking about here. Give us background, context, who, what, when, where, why, what was at stake. There is always something at stake. Okay. By the way, we tend to be too close to ourselves, so it might be helpful if you write this down and maybe you imagine that you are the main character in a movie. So again, be compelling, no details too small. Somebody else can help you edit it down. Then we got the T, the task. What were you asked to do? Or what did you take on? Action. Okay, well, what did you do? Here's the part that too many of us forget, and I don't want you to do this. How did you do it? That is going to show them who you are, how you think, your capacity to lead. Quick example, if I told you that in my last job, I got 500 people to come to an event, really impressive, right? What's more impressive is if I tell you, how did I get 500 people to come? That's going to show my creativity, my resourcefulness, especially because I had no budget. And then there's the result, right? And you have to quantify this. So I explained it a little bit, right? 500 people who came. But not just that, it's also after the fact. What happened? What was the actual impact on the business, on the bottom line? So that's money that you made, which is not always obvious. So maybe it's money that you saved, time that you saved. Maybe it's the contribution you made to the company culture. Because here's the thing, if you make life better and easier and happier for other people that you work with, chances are they are going to do their job better. Chances are the morale will be higher and that they'll stay at the company longer. Otherwise, it is expensive for the company to lose talent, okay? So if you have done things like led employee resource groups, get credit for it. Absolutely get credit for it, and you can include in it how you grew, what did you learn, use it as evidence for ideas you have moving forward. Sometimes we really have to paint a picture for them about how we're a leader. So don't be afraid to do that. And by the way, if you're having trouble figuring out how you impact the bottom line, now I want you to think about who can you ask? And if you're not sure, then that is actually a problem. All throughout the year, I want you to be having conversations like this with your manager. Tell them, I want to think like an entrepreneur here. I want to really understand from a fundamental business standpoint how the work that I do, how the work that our team does, how that impacts the bottom line. That way I can do even better. So it's not saying I don't know what I'm doing, okay? You have to know these things. It's also not just what you've done, but really who you are. I mentioned that a little bit, your contribution to the company culture. You are part of a team dynamic, whether you like it or not. Okay. So let's think about maybe the emotional intelligence that you have. Are you enthusiastic, positive, leadership, detail oriented? Are you patient? Team builder? Do you have a large network? Institutional knowledge, right? If you've been at the company for a while, you have to now draw the connection between how those quote softer skills have contributed to the bottom line. Quick example, I know that one of my strengths is being a really positive, enthusiastic person. I've seen that in how I cheerlead the team. I've seen in cheerleading the team that they've become more productive and efficient. We're getting our work done faster. And guess what? Saved time is saved money. Don't take this for granted, and don't let them take it for granted either. This is the part you've all been waiting for. Negotiating at a new job. Yes. First of all, accept your fear. You will be nervous. Remember, a couple of things here. First, they're expecting you to negotiate. Yes, even in a pandemic. This is part of how work works. So it's not so much what you say, it's really how you say it. So you're going to ask with empathy, and I'm going to get to that in just a minute. Here's how I want you to accept your fear. When you practice, and yes, you must absolutely practice. That's a non-negotiable. Okay. When you practice, really pay attention to your body. When do you start to get nervous? Okay. When does your heart beat faster? When do your palms get sweaty? And just say to yourself, it probably will happen. I know, probably will happen. And guess what? Now it probably won't because you've accepted it. Or if it does happen, it's not going to take you by surprise. And I think you're going to find that you'll let it go a little bit easier. I also don't want you to think about, well, practice makes perfect. Man, we need to get rid of that phrase because the trying to be perfect, think about how much pressure you're putting on yourself. And just, you don't have control at the end of the day. Let it go. You're going to do your best. They ask you, what do you currently make? Depending on where you live, this could be illegal. It is called the salary history ban. Employers should not be asking prospective employees how much they used to make. But if they do, you have a choice. You could say, I don't feel comfortable answering. That's fine. You could be abstract about it. I make in the 5 figures. Or you can tell them the truth, but then quickly pivot to what you actually want to make. Because there's market research that you've done about this specific job at this specific company, and that may have nothing to do with what you used to do or what you're currently doing. Let me give you a good example of this, and pay attention because this is also going to be a part of how you tell your story. Find the original job description of the job that you currently have or the job you used to have. I want you to draw up a new job description. What did you actually do if you were trying to replace yourself? What would that job description look like? Now, compare the two. Are they radically different? They probably are, right? Things probably changed. Maybe your job really morphed. You ended up taking on multiple people's roles. Think about how much you've grown as a person, all of the life experiences that you've had. So the money that you were given at that point in your life, at that original job description, may have very little to do with what you actually should be commanding now. You also might have been underpaid. Pay attention to this stuff. Now they ask, what do you want to make? You may have heard from many other coaches to never, ever, ever be the first one to say what you want to make. I think that is not right. By the way, everything that I say is just my opinion. I'm one person, and you need to filter this through who you are, your situation, and ultimately what you're comfortable with. Here's why I think you should go first. You're anchoring the conversation high. You're not going to obviously go way crazy above because you did your market research. So don't worry that you're going too high if you feel confident in your research. You say, this is the amount that I would like to make based on the market research that I did. Okay. You could also give them the range. I found the range between X and Y. I'm a top performer, so I'm asking for top dollar. You can also say, I'm afraid to lose this opportunity. I don't want to price myself too high. Would you give me more information? Something that I think is fantastic, you should all be saying is, I'm sure we can figure this out together. So even if you say, this is what I want to make, you can also say, but I know this is a conversation. I'd love to hear what you currently have budgeted. You can also say something like, I know that this is a fair company. I know this is a company that values gender equity, that values gender pay equity. Even if you don't know that, you say it anyway. You know why? Because you're holding them accountable to it. And you say, so this is the number I found, but I'm curious, what's your budget? I know that we're going to come to a place where everybody feels good. That's a way to anchor high, to assert yourself, to demonstrate that you know your value, because it's important that you don't undervalue yourself. That's not going to be a good look. But it's also not you versus me. It's saying we can figure this out together. You are on the same page, guys. If you have gotten this far in the interviewing process where they're even giving you an offer, they want you. They want you. But they lowball you. They say, we can't do that. How about this number? And you say, X is a great starting point. I'd like to discuss this further. You can be empathetic. Definitely hear you on budgeting issues. I know times are tight. So I want to be flexible. What can we do to get me closer to, and you give the feeling good number. Remember, the middle of that pay band. Simple. I think too oftentimes they say no and we go, okay, sorry, never mind. That's not a negotiation. That's just like a statement. Okay. So what you really want to do is have that comeback ask. What's the next thing you're going to ask for? They are ready for you. They know that that's how the negotiation is going to go. So have that second number ready to go and ask them if they can do that. You have to be quiet. Afterwards, I know that's tough. Balls in their court. Balls in court. Don't make it easy for them. Easier on them. And by the way, we're going to get to it in just a second. But if they really say no, that's when you get full compensation. That's when you really push into, no worries. Let's talk about full comp, because you have to get something. All right, let's talk about negotiating at your current job. First question I always get asked is, when do I ask? When do I bring this up? Don't wait until your annual review. You know why? Because budgets have probably been decided by then. So find out when budgets are actually being discussed and then go set up a meeting with your manager. Talk about how you want to lead, you want to grow, ideas you have for the future. You want to understand where you are at the company, where you are in terms of compensation, so that this doesn't feel like a conversation that's just about the raise. It's really about sort of holistically where you're going, right? And is there growth that's happening here? And growth can happen in a lot of ways. When you've had a win, go forward that. Hey, this great thing happened. Maybe that's a good time to talk about it. Ask them, what are your expectations of me? How do you measure success? If you were in my shoes, what would you do? A lot of that, again, that's sort of empathizing with them. If they just won't budge, they say, we can't do it. You say, I'd love us to think creatively about this. Is there any other way we can get to this number? I don't know if there's more equity or year-end bonus, or maybe let's think about the timetable, right? If I can't negotiate for another year, could we do a 6-month, revisit this in 6 months? And if so, send them a calendar invite for 3 months so you can talk about it, make sure you're still on track. You can also talk about full compensation. Have those asks ready to go, right? Things that bring you value, but don't cost them much money or at all, right? Cell phone, please get them to pay for your cell phone, internet. We're all working from home, Metro card, commuting money. Like they've got to give you something. And here's the thing, if you're thinking right now, but Claire, they can't give me the money then and salary, how can they give me other things? Let them figure that out. Never make the assumption that they can't do it. This is all about practicing at the end of the day. And I know we're scared about negotiating. I know there's always feelings. I always get nervous. I do, because at the end of the day, really the strongest negotiators are the ones who are willing and able to walk away. I've heard from approximately 2 people that they've lost opportunities because they negotiated, in which I said, well, thank God that you don't work there. What a horrible company. Relationship has to go both ways, right? You're committing to them for a year, guys. Think about this. If you were to enter into a romantic relationship and you're dating and the other person says to you, you have to commit to this for a year. There's no getting out of this. Otherwise, you'll look bad. Okay. You would be like, I really need to put a lot of thought into this. So remember that. I know it's scary, but practicing, you'll realize there's only so many ways this negotiation can go. Here's how it'll probably go. What's your current salary? What are you going to say? How much do you want to make? What are you going to say? We can't afford that. What are you going to say? And then, sorry, no room in the budget. You have to have an answer for all of these things. You just do. And guess what? It gets better. You're going to raise the stakes for yourself, right? You're going to keep challenging yourself and doing bigger and better things. But in my experience, and I've had many negotiations and I've counseled many, many women on how to negotiate, they really follow the same structure. So just practice. And I promise you're going to feel really good about it, or at least better. And just remember, when you do well, we all do well. Those statistics, negotiate on behalf of me, other women, negotiate on behalf of maybe your family. future generations, right? You're building generational wealth. This isn't just about today's paycheck. Join our community. We've got over 75,000 women, ladiesgetpaid.com. We've got a Slack group with, yes, a salary negotiation channel. So continue the conversation with us. And of course, love for you to purchase my book, ladiesgetpaid.com/book. I have a whole chapter on salary negotiation. It's got 320 pages in here of everything you could possibly want to know about navigating your career and moving upwards. Follow me at Claire Gets Paid on Instagram. I'd love to hear from you. I'm rooting you on. I believe in you, and I hope that you believe in yourself. Now go get paid.